I've often talked about, the chief diversity officer, diversity, equity, inclusion officer, all this kind of stuff. What they really are positions that exist at companies with way too much money. Facebook, Google, insurance companies, pharmaceutical companies. They have too much money, and so they hire people as an insurance plan. Having a chief diversity officer means there are no hit pieces about your business not being diverse enough. You have a built-in excuse to say, well, wait a minute, we have a chief diversity officer and it's a black female. Excuse me? Are you going to criticize us? We have a minority who's making $300,000 a year because they got this fake degree in gender studies. We're as diverse as it gets. And then they can push it off. Well, what's interesting is now all of these people are getting pushed out of the companies, and it's because they cause nothing but problems. And this, of course, segment is sponsored by quarteringgold.com. Have you heard about this? Biden's new budget proposes $4.7 trillion in new taxes. The same budget could push our debt from $31 trillion to a whopping $51 trillion. Can you imagine what that's going to do to our economy, quality of life? That's why it's critical you protect your savings with gold and silver before it's too late. I've partnered with the top-rated precious metals company, Goldco, because they're a great company with an amazing reputation. Right now, they're giving you up to $10,000 in free silver while supplies last. Plus, all qualified callers this week receive a free Ronald Reagan silver coin. That's quarteringgold.com. We've had a disastrous economic policy streak, never-ending war, skyrocketing inflation, bank failures, and now we've got new tax hikes coming down the pipe. Visit quarteringgold.com to learn how you can protect your life savings. Tell them the Quartering sent you, and you could get a free Ronald Reagan silver coin. Diversity executives hit the exits as company priorities shift. Everything is a battle. When you hire a chief diversity officer, again, I am right when I say this. I just know I am. I've worked inside of corporate America. You have more money than you know what to do with. When a business is struggling to get off the ground, when a business is working their tail off to get profitable, when a business is grinding it out, do you think that they have time and money to invest in somebody who's just going to create problems for them? HR is usually one of the last hires at a company when they have no other choice. Diversity officers, it's an extension of that. It's an absolute nothing position. It is a skill, a job that doesn't need to exist and shouldn't exist. And now that we have an impending, I'm telling you, I just talked about this morning how advertiser revenue on YouTube has absolutely been tanking. I had another creator reach out to me being like, dude, what's going on? My earnings are down like 50%. I'm like, yeah, mine too. There is an impending recession. Spend your money carefully, friends. Anyway, that's ahead of that. They're starting to cut a lot of these super huge salary people that don't actually add anything to the company. When things get tight, companies tighten their belt. And if you aren't directly tied to profit, you're gone. You're gone. She gone. 2 years ago, chief diversity officers were all the hottest hires into executive ranks. Now they're increasingly left out in the cold. Good. Companies like Netflix, Disney, and Warner Brothers have recently said that the high-profile diversity, equity, and inclusion executives will be leaving their jobs. Thousands of diversity-focused workers have been laid off since last year, and some companies are scaling back racial justice commitments. Good. Good. Sell me the hot dog. Sell me a hot dog. I don't care about anything else. If I'm buying an Oscar Mayer, and it could be, instead of $1.99 for a 12-pack, it could be $1.98, and you didn't waste money on a chief diversity officer, that's what I want. And oh, by the way, that's what literally every consumer wants. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI jobs, were put into the crosshairs after many companies started re-examining their executive ranks during the tech sector's shakeout last fall. Some chief diversity officers say their work is facing additional scrutiny since the Supreme Court struck down affirmative action in college admissions, which they should have, by the way. And companies brace for potential legal challenges. DEI work has also become a political target. Quote, there's a combination of grief, being very tired, and being, in some cases, overwhelmed, says Miriam Warren, Chief Diversity Officer at Yelp. Well, it's got to be extremely tiring to constantly make up problems that don't exist. I don't really know. I don't really know what else to tell people. Your job is to come in and create racist division. Your problem is to come in and create problems so that you can offer a solution to justify your gigantic salary. You think these people were making 40 grand a year? No. There's no diversity, equity, and inclusion interns. They're always C-level, a chief salary, deep six figures. I'd be willing to bet that Miriam Warren makes $250,000 a year or more creating problems for Yelp. Warren says the fear that the company commitments are imperiled fuel her and others to feel more committed to work than ever. Yelp's DEI budget has grown for the past 5 years. Well, wait till Yelp things tighten up, the economy tightens up. What do you think the first thing they're going to cut? The things that make money for them or the things that cost them money? In interviews, current and former chief diversity officers said company executives at the time don't want to change hiring or promotion processes because they want to hire the best person for the job and they don't care what their skin color is. Despite initially telling CDOs that they're hired to improve the talent pipeline, the quick about face shows company enthusiasm for diversity initiatives hasn't always proved durable, leaving some diversity officers now questioning their career path. None of them are going to have a job in 20 years, let me tell you that. These people add zero value to companies. In fact, my guess is they actively work to hire less qualified candidates to check boxes, to reach quotas. Of course, in the wake of St. Floyd leaving this planet in May of 2020, companies scrambled to hire diversity officers, changing the face of the C-suite. In 2018, less than half of the companies in the S&P 500 employed someone in that role. And by 2022, 3 of the 4 companies had created a position, according to a study by Russell Reynolds. Once mostly tasked with HR matters, today's diversity leaders are expected to weigh in on new product development, marketing efforts, and current events that have an impact on how consumers are feeling. Hey, we made a new wing nut. It's got a little silicone on the ends. We think it's going to be really great by the customers. Could you tell us if this is racist? That's their job. And then, of course, they have to find a problem with it. Ooh, I don't know. Use black silicone. It kind of feels like when they turn it, then they're oppressing the black man. You should probably use white. Salary justified. Who's going to tell that person no? New analysis from employment data provider Live Data Technologies shows that chief diversity officers have been more vulnerable to layoffs than their human resource counterparts, experiencing a 40% higher turnover. Their job searches are also taking longer. I've got 300 applicants and I stopped tracking, says Stephanie Lubin, who was laid off from her role as diversity head at Drizzly, an online booze marketplace. In May, following the company's acquisition by Uber, in one case, Lubin said she went through 16 rounds of interviews for a role she didn't get, and says she's now planning to pivot out of DE&I work. Yeah, no kidding. Nobody is hiring these weirdos. I'm telling you, the economy is in for a reshuffle. I'm not a Civil War guy or a, Chicken Little. What I'm telling my viewers is just be smart over the next year or so with your money. Keep an ear to the streets, keep an eye on the costs, maybe, don't take that, don't buy that new car this year, especially if it's going to overextend you, because things are happening. Imagine showing up for 16 interviews. I'm telling you, if I was applying for a job and I had to do more than 3, I would stop going. Like, that's just the reality. I'm not doing 16 job interviews for literally any job. They're telling us that the only way is to go into another role at D&I is if it includes something else. He says the request for broader titles that offer more responsibilities and resources. Her estimates that 60% of diversity roles he is currently filing combine the title with another position, such as Chief Human Resources Officers, up 10% from years ago. Well, it's because nobody wants these jobs. No, these jobs don't add value to the companies and never have. American workers are split on the importance of a diverse workforce. It has zero importance. The workforce needs to be the best. And you know, when times get tough, they're going to keep the people who are best at their jobs. I've done a layoff. It's actually what made me leave the private sector because it was so brutal. We had to lay off 60% of our workforce. I was 25 at the time, laying off people in their 50s and 60s with their master's degrees. Okay. At no point during those rounds, I was in the room with all the executives because I had about 50 people underneath me, 40 or 50, because I managed the developers and the marketing team. And at no point did anyone's race ever come up. It was like, we have to cut 60% of the staff due to a market force thing that we had no control over. What's the bare minimum of that you can run your department on? That's the questions we talk about. Okay, I need this chick because she's the best that I have at analytics. I need this guy because he's the best PHP programmer. I need this girl because she's the best JavaScript. I could probably live without this guy. I could probably live without this girl. It was never about what the race was. And that's what's going to happen when things tighten up. These jobs are going the way of the dinosaur.